Welcome, everyone, once again to Tim's Final Confessions. And I am joined once again by my friend Chris Preston at my rock and roll heaven. And as you may have figured out, even if you haven't read the description from Chris's shirt, we're going to talk about Def Leppard today. Now, I have to admit, one of the cool things about being, getting to know people online, I thought I was a big Def Leppard fan. I've met some bigger ones, and Chris is definitely in that bigger fan category. So I thought it would be fun if we talked about, I guess, Def Leppard tour swag, because we've both seen them in concert. Chris has seen them many times, and kind of go in order by the years, by the tours, and tour memorabilia is cool. I wish I had more. Chris has got plenty, so we're going to get started with that, and I guess the first tour either of us, well, the first tour we have to talk about is the Hysteria tour because now for me, I remember I was just getting into the band, and I think it was April of '88 that they played Moncton, which is about three and a half hours away. It was playing in the round, Man Tesla opening for them, but I had nobody to take me. I was in grade 8, so I had nobody to take me. I didn't get to see them for many, many years after that. But so, Chris, I'll let you take it. But you've got something from that tour, even though you didn't see it.
I do indeed. So thanks for having me, Tim. This is going to be a ton of fun. As you said, I'm a massive Def Leppard fan. We won't even scratch the surface of the rest of the Def Leppard stuff I have beyond
That's
tour.
why I'm narrowing it down to tour swag.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of episodes to follow. So, yeah.
Exactly. So similar to you, Tim, Hysteria came out in August of '87. I had just turned 16. Hysteria was really my introduction to Def Leppard in terms of the first album that I really got into. Still my favorite album of all time. I begged and begged my parents to take me to Toronto to see them. They came to Toronto a couple times on that tour on two legs, separate legs, and I couldn't. No one would take me. I was devastated. So I missed that amazing tour, but over the years, I've picked up a couple things. One really cool piece I'm going to show is a T-shirt, and I think most of the Def Leppard fans have seen this one before.
Oh, I love it.
I got this 4 or 5 years ago from a guy that was selling a bunch of shirts on eBay. This is the Def Leppard women shirt that Joe wore in many of the videos, right? So this is an original from that Hysteria tour. It's in excellent shape. It did cost me a pretty penny, but it's a fantastic shirt. Like, I love the design of this. I love the graphics, right? Based on the video, the comic book kind of theme that was intertwined into the women video, the first single off this album. So you can buy a reproduction of this shirt, but the reproductions I've never seen with the back, with this in the back. You get the front, but the back is just white. So this one, actually, it almost fits me.
Yeah, that's the thing with getting old shirts. Yeah.
I don't wear it, but
cool. That is so iconic, man.
Yeah,
like you could go as Halloween, get yourself a wig, get that shirt,
right?
Get some torn up jeans, and you're there. Get a white jacket.
Exactly. I've seen Halloween costumes and pictures of people dressed up as Joe with this shirt, with the torn jeans, as you said, the hair, the whole work. So that I picked up a few years ago, and I was really happy to find it. There's a ton of stuff that you can find online, obviously, if you're a fan and you're looking for swag, but it does get expensive. I also have, and I had to take this off my wall because I have a bunch of framed ticket stubs.
So do I. I dug mine out, but I don't like to do it. So
I didn't want to take it out of here, but I'll show it anyway. So I picked up, and there's two pieces in here there's a bunch of pieces in here related to different tours, but you can see there the green. Oh, there we go.
Oh, yes, a pass.
There's a house access pass from the North American tour. I actually picked that up at an online auction a few years ago. There's a great website. It's, again, expensive, but there's a great website that does fairly frequent online auctions for tour swag and all kinds of memorabilia. So I picked up that house access. That would have been from either the first or second leg of the North American tour.
That's interesting because I wonder, you know, anybody that studies this stuff and reads about it, I wonder what house access meant. Like, I know there's different levels, right?
Exactly.
There's different levels of access.
Exactly.
That you can wander around with your laminate on and you can go so far, but if you don't have, the inner circle ones or whatever, somebody will stop you, so you can't come in here. So yeah, it's interesting.
And the interesting thing about that one is too, so house access, obviously, I think just was, to your point, was limited because then there's all access, right?
Yeah.
Which gets you backstage. That one that I bought, it's a sticker, but it was never used. So the sticker backing is still on it.
Cool.
So very interesting. Yeah. This is a reproduction, but it's from the era. It's the little mini.
Oh, yes.
Hysteria reproduction from the 30th anniversary CD box set.
Yeah.
So really cool because it is a legit proper reproduction in small size. So this is what the North American tour program looked like. Again, in small version, but really cool that they did this for the Hysteria anniversary box set, which is fantastic, by the way. So it's got all of the appropriate info.
Got the Animal Instinct in it. That's so cool.
The Animal Instinct right there, which was a great book.
I had Will on when that came out, and he had the box. Now I only bought the CD with the just the 3 CD version with the album and then the live album. But one thing I had, and shameless plug, there's a picture of me wearing it in my Unspooled book.
Yep.
I loved the shirt, and if I saw one that I thought I could fit into, I would get it if it wasn't too expensive. But I didn't buy it on tour, obviously, but I think I bought it at Kmart or something. It was just, it was just in a regular store, but it was a black shirt with the triangle on it, and it had individual headshots of each of the band members.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
I probably wore that shirt till it was thread worn. That was one of my favorites.
Well, this is the thing too, right? So over the years, so a lot of my, like, some of the 90s stuff, especially from Slang, I bought items, but I wore them. I have so many band shirts, or had so many band shirts, that you wore out, right? You wore them.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't think at that era to keep them as collectibles that they'd have value. So now it's like...
Yeah, I wish I'd have done that. Now, I've got a lot of my old band shirts that my daughter put onto canvases for me and made little art pieces for me. The one that I cannot find, and I don't know what happened to it unless it just got lost, is my Slang shirt from when I saw them. And all it had on the front cover was the album cover, and it had tour dates on the back. But still, I wish I had it.
Yeah.
But we're skipping ahead a little bit.
Yeah, we're skipping ahead a bit. Yeah, exactly. So that's everything I've got from Hysteria at this point, which I wish I had more, but you go down the rabbit hole of buying that and you're into bucks.
Well, plus, I mean, it's fun to get, actually be there and get it yourself, right? I mean, you can't go back in the Wayback Machine, much as we'd like to.
Exactly. So, Adrenalize.
Yeah.
One of my favorite Def Leppard albums. This was the very first time I saw them live. I traveled down to Toronto and saw them at Maple Leaf Gardens in the fall of 1992. And it was still the best show I've ever been to. No opening band. It was billed as an evening with Def Leppard.
I was going to ask you about that because I didn't think there were openers on that tour.
Nope. It was solid 2.25 hours. Amazing set list. And this is where I've got stuff that I bought at that show and still have. So I'll show you a couple things. Now, this obviously is not mine, but you can see there's. I
saw that when you showed the Hysteria one, the 7-day weekend thing. Yeah.
So that is actually from the 7-day weekend tour, the Adrenalize tour. This one, as you can see, to your point, house access, but look at all the things crossed out. So there's local access, promoter access, security access, friend. This one is from a guy that I met on Twitter who lives in Ottawa, who actually, this was his. He worked security at the Ottawa Civic Center for this show. So that's why he had the house access pass. He was like, do you want it? You can have it. He sent it to me. I was like, my God, thank you.
Yeah, really.
Directly below that, there is my original ticket stub.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
For the Maple Leaf Gardens show, Wednesday, October 21st, 1992. Look at that price.
$29.50. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was a pretty good seat. That was East Rails, basically in Maple Leaf Gardens. It was along the boards, presented by Q107, of course.
Yeah.
And that is basically the show that for me changed everything. In the round, their stage setup was amazing. It was massive. And the set list, like I said, covered everything. They played some early stuff. They played a lot from Adrenalize. And it was just spectacular watching them do their thing as the pros that they were at the time and still are, obviously.
Yeah, that's very cool.
This is a prized possession.
Oh, yes.
So this is the original tee that I bought on that night. I bought it actually extra large, thinking that I would keep it and grow into it because I was a skinny dude at the time. But I have only worn this shirt a handful of times, and it's in fantastic shape.
Yeah.
I've kept it tucked away nicely in my drawer. But I love this shirt. If you recognize it, so Rick Savage wore basically a cut up version of this. I think the sleeves were out. He in a couple of the videos. So I Want to Touch You. He's wearing this.
Yeah.
And I love it. I think I saw it that night and I was like, I got to have this shirt. I think it was $20.
It's cool because it's not just a straight up reprint of the front cover.
Right.
Yeah.
They had really cool merch at that show. I did have another one that I bought that was the traditional with like album cover, tour dates on the back.
Yeah.
Wore it out, gone, long gone. So that one though is a favorite of mine. Then I've got the tour program. So this is the one again, original that I bought that night. They always have done such a great job with their merch. So 7-day weekend tour, 92, 93. This one I've kept tucked away really nicely as well to keep it in great shape. I think I may actually frame this one because I've got a spare copy, believe it or not. I bought a second one online from somebody, but that gives you an idea, right? Like, yeah. So there's that rising drum stage from Rick Allen, or his drum podium that was, a little bit different from the Hysteria tour, right? Because Hysteria rotated, but it did not rise.
Yeah.
So seeing this live, especially during Rocket, when that thing went up, oh man, it was a spectacular stage setup. So
it's got the Adrenalize cover that's on the stage, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So it was so well done and so put together. But this, I still pull this program out and look at occasionally. But look, they've even got
I recognize that shot. That's from Wembley. That's
from the Queen tribute.
Yeah, yeah.
So they have always done such a great job with and there's what they looked like at that era, right? The Adrenalize era.
I've seen a lot of these pictures, although I've not seen that one with Phil yawning.
Is that too funny or what?
Yeah.
So this is again a prized possession of mine, just because it captures a point in my life where I was so into this band and seeing them live. I'll be honest with you, like this is the one band for me that every time I still see them, I get goosebumps. Yeah. When the show opens. Yeah. I can't explain it, but that's what happens. This is the spare copy. What I just recently picked up though, and I had to get it because again, I loved this era of the band and this was the first time I saw them. So this is the Never Ending Weekend Tour program. So this one is from the second leg of the Adrenalize tour. They kind of decided
they kept the same sort of format. I've never seen that before. That's really cool.
Right? Yeah. So it was called the 7-day weekend. Then after leg one, it turned into the Never Ending Weekend Tour. And they updated it. So there is actually a bit of a different this is
Yeah.
different because of the dates, right? So this goes from July 93 into August and September, where mine was, kicking off the tour.
Now
And
that tour, Chris, that would include, I almost saw, well, I wanted to, again, couldn't get there, but I wanted to see them because they played a big festival at, I think it was Parley Beach, which was not too far from Moncton.
Yes.
But it was Parley Beach. Meatloaf was making his comeback. He was there. Ugly Kid Joe was there. April Wine. They were making a big comeback at that time. It seems to me there was another band that's escaping me now, but I would have liked to have gone to that show.
Oh yeah.
Did not make it.
Yeah, they played the top, like this was a massive, massive tour. And considering the time, right? 92, 93, when this type of music.
I love the fact that they were one of the bands that still drew people. There was still an audience for it. Oh yeah, I always felt good. When your bands, and we'll get to a point where I've got a story that's like the opposite of that, sadly. But yeah, at this point, it was still, I suppose, cool to, even if people were like, Def Leppard, blah, blah, blah. Are you going to go? Well, yeah, I'm going to go.
Yeah, they were still selling out Maple Leaf Gardens, right? So
yeah.
This book is the same, essentially, with the same photos, but this page is different. The write-up is a bit different because this is actually early June 93. They start writing up a little bit of a different kind of what's been going on with them over the tour. So all the pictures and stuff are the same though. And they've updated, obviously. Oh no, that's the same too, but there's so I had to get this. I saw it online and I had never seen this version of it. So I was like, I got to grab it. And it was actually a pretty decent price. So I picked it up.
I got to tell you, I mean, it's good a place as any to mention. I miss tour books. I really, really miss the tour books. And, imagine a time when not only tour books were so popular that you even had multiple tour books within a tour. There were different variants that came out. So, it's just a different era.
Yeah, I'm not sure when that stopped because I was a bit surprised when I saw them last year on the stadium tour that they didn't do a tour book for it. And actually, when I saw them in 2018 as well, there was no tour book in 2018. Yeah. So I guess it's a cost thing, right? And it's a matter of
I guess it's physical media, right? Which I still like, but the last time that I bought a tour book at a show, any show, was I saw AC/DC in 2009 on the Black Ice tour, and they had a tour book. That's the last new tour book I bought.
Yeah, I loved them, but hey, what do you do? Times change. So that's everything I've got from Adrenalize. Showed your ticket stub, showed my pass. So that was, again, the first time I saw this band live, and it changed pretty much everything for me in terms of live shows. And I remember going to other shows shortly thereafter and being kind of almost let down. But it's like, why does everyone not tour in the round and have rising drum kits and all the rest of it, right?
Yeah. So that takes us to the Slang era.
Amazing era. Amazing.
Yeah. So what have you got from...
The only thing I have from Slang, I didn't buy a tour program for that one. I did buy a shirt, as I said. I wore it out, so I don't have it anymore. I do have my ticket stub. So you can see right in the middle there. There we go. So it's that one right in the middle. MCA Concerts, Much Music, Q92 present Def Leppard with that very memorable band, Tripping Daisy.
That's interesting for a lot of reasons.
Right
I'll get
there.
to that in a second.
So,
that's a different looking ticket, though. That's really interesting.
If you can see that, it's a different looking ticket because this tour was interesting. I saw them on this in Sudbury, Ontario, which was about an hour from where I lived at the time. And as we know, grunge changed things. And the Slang tour was very small in scale. So that venue that I saw them at was a 4,000 seat hockey arena in Sudbury, Ontario, which I couldn't believe that they were going to Sudbury, Ontario it's 100,000 people. So we drove up and saw them in it. It was amazing because it was such a small venue. We actually snuck from our seats across the rails and got right up front. So that was the first time I experienced them. I was up in the front row and it was unbelievable. Simple front of the stage setup. The light show was very minimal. It was just them almost going back to their roots, right? Like just a rock show,
Yeah.
no fancy lighting or lasers or effects. And they played one of the best sets I think I've ever heard, because we got 4 or 5 songs from Slang, which at the time I didn't like. But when I heard those songs live, it was different. And I remember being right up front and like literally being able to almost touch Phil. I was right in front of him and he looked down at me and gave me a smile. And I was like, this is the best. I didn't care anymore that they weren't in Make Believe Gardens.
Yeah.
It was the fact I was able to get up close, right? And that era of the band is, it's been talked about a lot with, they went away from their core sound. They tried to experiment a bit. People don't like the album. I think it's underrated. But that tour enabled, me to get up close to them, whereas before I probably wouldn't.
It was unheard of. Yeah,
exactly. And they went to places like Sudbury, which weren't on their normal kind of map in terms of the big cities, right? So I loved that show. I wish I had more items from it, because it was a really memorable experience for me. I'll never forget it.
So this takes to where the first time that I saw them, and I had a shirt, like I said before, just had the album cover on it, but it's gone. And I'll show my ticket stub.
Oh, nice. There you go.
Donald K. Donald Productions.
Oh, massive promoter through the 80s and 90s.
I don't know why it's got a hole punch through it. This is the way it came. But they played September 20th, 1996 at the Moncton Coliseum, which I'm not sure the capacity, but it's not a very big, it's a Coliseum. It's not a very big place. Moncton's not a very big city. And the attendance was terrible.
Really?
The attendance was very, very low. Like, it was just cavernous. Like, there were just empty seats everywhere. In all honesty, in my mind's eye, when I think about it, I don't even know if the venue was a third full. Like, it was really, you could really see that the media and the cognoscenti or whatever, the grunge era had really, they really got their ass kicked. And it is a shame because, as you said, they sounded fantastic.
Yeah.
Joe sounded great. And yes, I also got the privilege of Tripping Daisy. Now, that's a name that's gone forgotten, I'm sure, unless you're a big 90s alt rock fan. I think their big song was called I've Got a Girl or I Had a Girl or something like that.
Yeah, they have one song.
I don't care enough to look it up.
Nope.
Now, I will say this, though. We got there and, it was very obvious that it was very sparsely attended. But this band, Tripping Daisy's playing. And one of the things that I really resented about the era always seemed like, these newer bands tried to make themselves sound so cool, and they were beyond listening to the likes of Def Leppard, and it was always like Snicker or whatever.
Yeah.
If you dared to say you like Def Leppard, Whitesnake, Poison, bands like that, right? Like our friend Sean Kelly says, don't call it hair metal.
Absolutely.
But I had to give it up for them for Tripping Daisy because they encored with Wasted.
Oh,
and they played it really, really well. So I'm like, okay.
I don't remember getting
legitimate fans. I'm like, okay. Yeah, they did 2 encore songs. They did Wasted, and then they did Pretty Vacant by the Sex Pistols.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, okay. And another thing, when Def Leppard were playing, when they were doing Have You Ever Needed Someone So Bad, the band members of Tripping Daisy came on, and I think they just had like tidy whities on, and they were all eating bananas and getting down on their knees, very suggestive. And the guys and the Def Leppard guys were just cracking up. So I was like, all right. Yeah, I'm not the biggest Slang fan. I supported it. But I do remember really liking what they played from it live. Particularly, I want to say they did Deliver Me. And I really
I think they did.
One.
Yep.
I got a new appreciation for that one. And the only other thing I've got is I did buy the tour book. It's the only tour book I have that's shaped like this. It's very weird. It's this little square. It's this little square thing. And if I was to hold it up to
is it like almost album size?
No, hold on. I'll get just the closest record here. Shameless plug, probably for an upcoming episode. So this is actual vinyl.
Yeah.
Here's the tour book.
Oh, geez, it's tiny.
Yeah. It's very small, and it's yeah, I can't remember what it cost, but I mean that was the tour book, so I had to buy it.
Absolutely.
On the back, it's just got this. I don't know if it's supposed to be 01 or OI, and the logo here is kind of interesting because it's got like 9 and then like a 6 and 7 together. You know, as it's say 96, 97 tour, and so you know it's got these pictures, and it folds out more pictures. It's got a little. It's got this. You know, look, the whole. They were going for the whole '90s thing. There's a little bit of a write up on the bottom. I believe this is from the Work It Out or the Slang video, both of which I think were shot at the same time.
Let's work it out.
And in this, you know, a lot of tour books did this. There'd be like bits of lyrics. The Van Halen tour book was like that too, from Balance, similar era. And yeah, you know, just a lot of pictures. There and okay, and then this thing folds out, and okay, it's the tour dates go like up and down. And,
okay, yep.
Yeah, it's really unique. I've never seen another tour book like that. So that's the Slang tour book, or at least the Canadian tour.
Yeah, that tour was for me when I was so excited for Slang. I remember buying it and being so massively disappointed in Slang because it wasn't what I knew Def Leppard to be, and I hated it. And then when they announced the tour, obviously I was going to go and got the ticket. But as I said, like those songs live, once I heard them live, they were so good and heavier than they were.
And they sounded, because, you know, they had all the harmonies and everything, they were playing them a little bit more traditionally for them.
Exactly.
It wasn't quite as dry. And like I said, the band sounded really, really good. I'm trying to think of some other highlights, but I mean, I don't know. I just remember thinking, what a shame that it's so poorly attended because people are missing out on a great show.
Yeah,
you know?
Agreed.
And that's why, well, you know what? I'll get to it later.
Okay.
But for it as we know, it came around. So
it did.
So I guess next up is the Euphoria era.
It is. I have 0 from that time frame, unfortunately.
So I can pick up a little bit of slack there. This is a nice problem to have because my kids have pretty much inherited a lot of my musical taste. My daughter, I don't know if she still has or not, but I had a shirt that I bought when I saw them. Actually, I'll show you the ticket stub. Saw them in February of 2000 in Fredericton, which is about an hour away. Joan Jett and the Blackhearts opened.
Nice.
And she was bald. I think it was the first time I'd ever seen her bald because we were walking into the arena, and it was weird because you're looking and she sounds like she ever did. Same voice. And I'm like,
who is that?
It's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I'm like, where is that voice coming from? But yeah, February 10th, 2000. And this one was presented by House of Blues Concerts Canada, that they kind of took over for Donald K. Donald, I think. Similar looking tickets. I miss the look of these old tickets too. I know I'm an old man, but so the shirt that I bought, it was a gray shirt, just had the Def Leppard logo and a photo of the band, black and white photo of the band, and on the back it had tour dates. So that's what that Euphoria shirt looked like. And I also bought, this is the only other tour book I have to talk about. So I bought this tour book.
That's a great
book. It says Euphoria Tour 99-2000, photo of the band on the back. And so here's some tour dates listed there.
See, and this is back to the era of Def Leppard that we love, right?
I mean, a lot of them, you know, John, a lot of them had the short hair at this point, but, you know, but definitely it was a return to form for sure. Photos of the band. You know, your typical tour, but they always they like to do these center spreads here like this too, which are always fun. The individual band members listed. I like that photo on the back. It's kind of cool.
That's a cool photo.
Now, as for the show itself, what I remember about it, unfortunately, so this was dead of winter. Joe lost his voice.
Oh,
he completely lost his voice. But pros that they are, and the fact that so many of the guys can sing, they pulled it off. They made it through the show. I remember thinking that I was really happy they still did Slang the song. That was the only thing from Slang that they did. But
Interesting.
yeah, from Euphoria, obviously they did Promises, which was obviously a little underwhelming live with Joe having lost his voice, because I was such a proponent. I remember when that came out, I'm like, oh, I want this to be such a big hit.
Yeah, and he hit some notes that are pretty
he pushed himself a little bit in the studio there. Yeah. What else? They did Day After Day. That was a cool one. Was not expecting that. I'm thinking they must have done Demolition Man. Boy, the more I think about it, I'm having a hard time. I mean, I didn't keep track of set lists at this point. I know I could look it up on Setlist FM, but enjoyed the show despite the fact that Joe had lost his voice and he was apologetic about it. But like I said, they were able to pull it off between, Phil could sound like Joe.
Yes, absolutely.
And Vivian, but they all sing. They all sing to an extent. So yeah, it wasn't quite the. Some bands, when you have only one guy that sings, if you lose the voice, there's your show, right? So they managed to pull the full show off. So
yeah, if there's one band that can do it, that's it for sure.
Yeah. And that was the last time I saw them for quite a few years. So at this point, I think I'm going to let you take over with what you have throughout the early 2000s.
Yeah. So what I've got is I don't have a ton. I've got ticket stubs. I've got a couple shirts. So from Euphoria through till the 2000 up until the 2015-ish era, where they didn't release a ton of new albums, right? They had the big gaps in between. I did manage to see them, I think, on almost every occasion that they did tour, and thankfully we live in North America and they love Canada, so we got into the habit of pretty much
you just reminded me of something, Chris, that I meant to say before. It's important to note Slang went platinum in Canada.
Yes, Slang was
That's
big.
100,000 copies, 50,000 gold. It's a tenth of U.S. sales. But yeah, Canada's always been a big market for them. So yeah, even when they only went gold in the U.S., they had a platinum record in Canada, which is why it's all the more head scratching to me. But it must have been, maybe Eastern Canada wasn't such a strong market for them at the time. But fortunately, they kept trying, kept coming back. But carry on.
Yeah, so that's to your point, that's an excellent point. They make sure to come to Canada regularly. Like you can count on, COVID aside, every 2 years you're going to get a Def Leppard concert, and they're going to tour. They don't just go to Toronto. They hit 6 or 7 or 8 of the Canadian.
Well, I'm always impressed when bands come east, because I'm out east, and a lot of times,
absolutely,
some bands, even Canadian bands, they think Canada stops at Montreal.
Yep. So. Yeah, unfortunately, which is a shame, because there's rock fans out east, obviously.
At least come to Halifax. That's
exactly. Absolutely. So I'm just looking through here. I've got, it's maybe a little bit difficult to do, but I'll show you a couple of them. There might be more on my wall behind me, actually, but I won't take that one down. But I've got a couple. So 2000 and where we got here? 2005. I'll try and show it to you at the top up here. I might have to do this. I don't know how this is going to show up. So it's that ticket stub. This might not work very well. You can see it to the left there. Def Leppard, the House of Blues Ticketmaster stub.
Oh, yes. I see. It's got yellow on it. I see it.
Yeah. So that is summer of 2005. That would have been, I believe, the Rock of Ages tour.
So right. Was that when they were touring with Bryan Adams?
No, that was another year. I should have actually written all this down before we started today of who they toured with at the times. But on the tours that I saw them throughout the 2000 era, it was weird because I was still a massive fan, but I wasn't at that point into buying a ton of swag at shows. And I don't know what happened. Maybe it was partly because I was working at a job that I didn't have the money.
Yeah.
But I bought a couple shirts here and there, again, wore them out. I wasn't buying tour books at that time, so I've mainly just got ticket stubs. So there's that one. There's a bunch in the frame behind me. So I saw them, the Rock of Ages tour, the Yeah tour, Mirror Ball tour. I have a shirt. This one is I love this shirt. So this was on the 2017 tour. I might jump
that is cool. That would have made a good album cover.
Yeah, this one, when I saw it, I loved the design, right? With the kind of coat of arms there. So you can
Oh,
see
it
on
says
the
Sheffield, England. Okay. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, Sheffield, England. So this one really stood out to me. This one actually, they didn't come to Toronto on this tour in 2017. There's the dates on the back.
Okay.
I went to Montreal for this one.
I'm just looking to see if there's anything close, and I'm not seeing, although it's hard to see them all. Unionville, New York, Green Bay, Wisconsin. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
nothing out east.
I don't see any New Brunswick or Nova Scotia or even Maine. Maine is right next door. So yeah.
Yeah, that was a summer. That was a summer tour. So this is one I bought that I haven't. I think I've worn it once.
I love that. That is
Yeah,
so cool.
this is one of my favorite designs.
And I like what they did with the logo too.
Yeah, it
I like
really. I saw it up on the wall, and I was like, oh my god, I gotta have
gotta
it.
have it. Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
that's what, yeah, like everything else. I mean, tour swag and got ridiculously expensive.
Yeah,
And shirts that used to cost you 30 are now 80. And yeah, and so so if you're gonna have to charge that much, give them something cool.
absolutely. So
Yeah.
as I saw them throughout that period, so from the 2000 to 2015, 16 timeframe, I made sure to go because they came basically almost every second summer, and they would always play the outdoor venue here, the big one in Toronto, which is a great place for a summer rock show. And the only complaint I'll ever have about, and it's not really a complaint, maybe it's just because I'm such a fan, the set lists from that time frame really didn't change much.
Okay,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
In terms of, you knew you were going to get, you're going to get 6 or 7 songs from Hysteria. You're going to get the 4 or 5 from Pyromania. They'll throw a couple from Adrenalize. They'll play Bring It On the Heartbreak. Nothing from pre Pyromania other than that. And
Yeah.
then you might get a sprinkling of like a Promises and then something off the new album at the time, right? Rock
Yeah.
On gets thrown in there. So, and I love hearing those songs. I think Joe said this many times, if you can't take the responsibility for writing a hit and you're going to have to play it, then don't do it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I get that. I mean, I understand that if the band came out and went into Answer to the Master, there'd be 5 of us losing our minds, and the rest of the people would be like, "So anyway, I was
right, bathroom break."
Yeah, yeah.
So, so that's the only thing I would say about. I've always loved every show I've been to of theirs. I will say I've never gone to a Def Leppard show and walked out disappointed. There's been various ones where I'm like, this is really memorable. And this was just like, oh, it was a great show. But I've never walked out of a Def Leppard concert going, man, that wasn't very good. Or, I wish they would have played this song. Sure. I wish they'd dig in a little bit deeper. Like, I'd love to hear Stand Up, Kick Love Into Motion live. I don't know
why that's not, if you're going to play. Yeah,
but we're getting off into
that's one of my favorites from Adrenaline. But yeah.
Absolutely. We're getting off into a whole other world there. But at any rate, this is, do we want to get into, so I don't have a ton of other stuff from that era. I've got a ton of stuff now from 2018 to the stadium tour.
Okay. I've got a couple things from 2019.
Okay.
So I guess I'll show those off now. And I got one more thing to wrap up with. So yeah, the next time I saw them, they came through. You're right. They did come through quite a few times. In the early 2000s, I was just having kids, just money for concerts was just not happening. Right.
Yeah.
But I did, in 2019, they went on tour with Tesla, which was great because I love Tesla and I'd never seen them in concert. So that was like two for one.
Favorite show of mine too.
Now, I got to be honest. I was not a fan of the Shock album. I really didn't like it at all. I hope they do better next time. But I'm a fan of the band. I love the band, and so yeah, it was kind of a no-brainer. But I did a review of it. It was, I think it. You know what? I think it might be my most watched video on my channel. My video of that.
Excellent.
But yeah, and with that came, of course, one of the Rock Brigade shirts. And I've also got my my tour stub here. So saw them at a relatively new venue in Moncton, the Avenir Center, July 13th, 2019. Great show. Like I said, Tesla were great. I mean, Frank Han and Dave Rude walked out and they started doing Coming at You Live.
Oh,
That was awesome, and they only did one song from the new album, so that was fine. I mean, it was a shortened set, but I like the band. And that's probably the only place I wasn't going to get to. They weren't going to come around, on their own. So
no.
that's cool. That's cool. And yeah, of the 3 times I've seen Def Leppard, this last one was my favorite. Joe sounded really good. As we all know with Def Leppard, it's hit and miss, right? Joe has his good nights and bad nights.
Sure.
This was a very good night. And the show opened with Rocket, and all they're doing, they're just playing the album version over the PA, but this curtain is slowly going up and they're just standing there not moving. And I'm like, that's how you start a rock and roll show.
That's what I got in 2018. Same opener.
Yeah. Yeah. They were supporting, I guess, the story so far, 1 and 2. They did Man Enough. That was fun. From the self-titled. I can't remember if they did anything else in that album. I know I wrote it all down. I guess you could call it a deeper cut. They did Excitable, which is one that they didn't always do.
Exactly. Yep.
I think they did Heartbreak Switch 625, which never gets old. When I hear Bringing on the Heartbreak on the radio, it's always a disappointment because I always just want it to keep going.
Yep.
But yeah, the band sounded fantastic, and it was just and like I was hinting at before, this is the same city where in 1996 they could not fill a small little Coliseum. Like, it was just dismal attendance. This place, I think the Avenir Center holds 8,000-9,000 people, and it was packed. Yep. And I remember thinking to all those naysayers that said this music was dead, I remember just thinking, you know what, middle finger to, it was really gratifying, and the band still sounds really, really good. That's the last time I've seen them. I'm sure I'll see them again because, as we all know, there will be a next time. But yeah, so you've got more shows to talk about. So yeah, let's hear it.
I do. So to your point about this band coming back around and people now thinking this band is actually pretty cool. The one thing I've noticed probably since mid 2015 and the shows I've been to since then, up until the stadium tour last year, is the diversity of ages of fans at the show. I sat next to my daughter wants to go desperately to meet them next time they come, which I was like, wow, that's going to be expensive. But I sat next to a father and daughter around my age, and she was 16, 17. And I think the daughter was having more of a blast than her dad. Like, it was just unbelievable to watch young fans who have grown up because their parents have listened to this band now loving Def Leppard. It's so cool.
I think that's got something to do with it, Chris, because I think what you're getting now is you're getting parents that do have a little bit more income that would have gone during those lean years, but now they've passed the music along to their kids. So now instead of just 1 or 2 people coming, you've got 4 or 5 people coming from the same household or whatever. Exactly. and enjoying this music, because and it is gratifying, and it does speak to, there's a reason that these songs resonate with people. It's good. The work that they put into, we all know the horror stories of and how hard they work to get Hysteria out. They're reaping the benefits because they created timeless music. And as long as they're still able to perform at such a high level, they're still going to have people coming to see them.
Yeah, agreed. 100%. So we're going to get into 2018, which is I'll preface this by saying I've seen this band probably a dozen times now. And in 2018, they were touring with Journey, doing stadiums. And they announced the stadium tour with Journey. They're coming to the Rogers Center in Toronto. And I remember sitting down and going, I think I'm going to do the VIP meet and greet. Like, I'm going to spend the money. And I'm so glad that I did, because it's completely changed now. It's way more expensive. You don't get the same intimate interaction with them anymore, thanks to COVID. So I spent $1,000 and did the VIP meet and greet. And it may have been one of the best moments of my life, which I'll talk about when I show you some of the stuff. So kicking it off, this is one of the shirts
That's a
from,
cool shirt too.
yep. So
So
this
it's
is
got that. So it's kind of got it's got the gun sight from Pyromania,
the Union Jack,
the Union Jack. It's got Rock Brigade. It's got like
established
lightning. Yeah,
1977.
man, the shirts are getting better.
Yeah, and you know what? I've gotten to a point, maybe it's an age thing. I don't like buying black shirts anymore. I don't I don't wear I like buying different color shirts.
My wife likes it when I wear shirts other than black, but I still like my black tour shirts. But that's something like that now I would wear. That's cool.
Exactly. So there's the 2018 tour. Tons of dates on this tour. Not every city was a stadium, but they played a few of the big venues on this one. So Toronto's in there, obviously. That was the show I was at. So I love this shirt. This is one I actually have worn a few times. That was from that. Now, the VIP meet and greet. Get into some detail about it because it's quite an experience, right? You buy your ticket, you get a separate kind of VIP experience. There's different levels of meet and greet and different levels of VIP. So I bought the one that has the full meet and greet experience plus a second row seat at the show. There was a front row seat, which was another couple $100, which I didn't bother with. And you get a bunch of swag. You obviously get your moment with the band. We got a kind of private in advance of the show, got to walk up. We got a group picture in front of the stage. And then you go and line up and wait to meet the band. So I'll show you some of the swag. So they gave everybody, it was pretty cool, actually. They gave everybody this kind of, it's the tote bag.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's got the Def Leppard logo on there.
Yeah.
And it's fairly big, but it's got.
Wow. That looks like it would be, expensive to buy a bag like that.
Yeah, I've heard varying stories of meet and greet merch from other bands where people are disappointed, but I was pretty pleased with this. So you get the bag that came with it. Included in the bag was this very cool little box set, which when you open it up has a bunch of postcards
through the years.
Yeah. Sorry, that's a bit blurry. My camera, I got to get a new camera. There we go. So various shots of them through the years, different eras. I was trying to figure out what all these eras might have been. This is an iconic photo.
Oh yeah, that's from like early '83 with Brian May. Yeah,
that was, I think, when was it San Diego that he came up on stage at the show in San Diego.
Well, either it would have been that or it would have been like at the Marquee in London because I think he jammed with them there too, I think. But
I love that shot. That's a great shot. And this one too.
Oh yeah, that's iconic. Yeah. Yeah.
So they did a really nice job of picking some really cool shots.
Chris, that just reminds me of something. I've said this before, but I was such a fan in the late '80s that whenever somebody in my house would buy Reebok shoes, I'd cut the Union Jack off of the box and put it on my wall.
Yeah, I had a ton of Union Jack stuff from that era because same thing because of that. Yeah. So they also gave us in this box. There's you can't see the logo. You can see the bag.
Oh yeah, no, I can see the Is it like leather or?
Yeah, it's like a faux leather luggage tag. So kind of cool, and a Def Leppard passport holder.
I was gonna say that looks like a passport holder. That is very cool.
So your passport in there.
Yeah.
So very, very nice.
It's different, and it's not. It's stuff that you wouldn't necessarily think of, but it's practical. It's stuff you could use if you wanted.
So I've got this just displayed up on a shelf here. So this was really great. Then they also included this, which I thought was fantastic.
Oh, that is cool.
So sorry about the glare. So this is a signed lithograph.
Yeah.
With the 2018 tour, obviously there. So everybody's signatures.
Okay, it took me a second. I could only see one signature because I was going to say who signed it, but
so
I see
signature.
I see it. The more as you turn it, I can see the signatures. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's three of them have signed it in gold Sharpie, and Phil and Rick Allen have signed it in silver Sharpie.
Those are the ones that I can see the best.
Rick Savage is right down here. And there's Joe, and there's Viv, right?
I can barely see them. Yeah, I can see Phil and Rick Allen's the best. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a really, it was crazy because I was up in the second row and I had all this stuff with me and I had this lithograph. And I'm like, how do I keep it so it doesn't get wrecked? Like,
Yeah.
so I was very careful to put that aside and keep it safe. So that was fantastic. So they gave us all of this stuff as we're waiting to go in to meet the band. So it was done. All of this was done before the show. We also got early access to shop, right? So I bought the shirt without having to deal with the crowds. And then came the moment where you're waiting in line. And I was going to say there's probably maybe 100 of us that were doing the full meet and greet. And I had been told beforehand, don't expect a lot. You're not going to have a lot of time with them, right? You're going to get rushed through. It's going to be quick. So I had tempered my expectations a bit. And as we're waiting in line, and I've met some great people who I stood in line with, I flew solo to the show because it was so expensive. And we started chatting. And as we're getting closer, my stomach's starting to go.
Yeah.
I'm anticipating, like, I'm so excited. I'm nervous. I had in my head, like, okay, I got to make sure I talk to each of them and say something to each of them when I meet them. So I was running all that through my head. And then you get up and they had a curtain kind of, cordoned off, and then they would open it and let people in, and the people in front of me went in, and I saw the band up there and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be sick. I thought I was going to vomit because I was so excited and nervous. And I have to tell you, Tim, and you hear a lot about rock stars, and I've met a lot of rock stars, and every rock star I have to say I've met has been outstanding. They've been amazing.
Yeah.
These guys were absolutely amazing. They do so many of these. You'd think they'd be tired and sick of it. Even if they were faking it, they did a hell of a job of faking it, because as soon as I walked in and it was my turn to meet them, each one of them turned to me, looked at me, smiled. Thank you for coming. I made sure they were all standing in the line in front of the backdrop, which I'll show you. Made sure I shook each of their hands. So remember, this is pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Shook each of their hands, said a word to each of them. They each looked at me, thanked me for coming, enjoy the show. Then it was the moment of, okay, where do you want to stand? And I was like, oh my God. So I actually remember I said, hey, Joe, can I stand between you and Rick Allen? And Phil was beside Joe. And I was like, Phil, can you move down? he looked at me and he was like, oh, okay. So that's how it's going to be. And and so he went down to the side, and I stood between Rick Allen, the Thunder God, and Joe Elliott. And I'm going to show you, hopefully this will work, because this is on my wall and I couldn't take it down.
Oh, yeah. That's really cool.
So there is my ticket stub framed. The photo of me with the band.
You got your laminate hanging on there.
Laminate's hanging on there for the meet and greet. So that moment, you can see the ridiculous grin on my face.
Yeah, but that's good. That's cool.
That was when Joe is tall. I'm 5'11". Phil is tiny.
Yeah.
Joe is tall. That exact moment where you see me grinning like an idiot, Joe had put his arm on my shoulder and was like, he said, I can't even remember what he said to me now, but he put his arm, that is the exact moment he put his arm around my shoulder. And so I put my arm around his shoulder and was like, this is the coolest thing ever. And he said, oh, you know what? He said something like, let's make this a good one, or let's make this a great pick. And that was,
that, and like you said, and it's hard, unless you talk to the people that have done it, they might say that every time, but it doesn't matter as long as, as they make it special for each person coming through.
Exactly.
You talked about just real, like, off topic a little bit. The only time I did a meet and greet was actually earlier this year when I met Night Ranger, and I couldn't get over how short Jack Blades is. Because you see them on stage, right? You just never,
exactly.
And the first show I ever went to, Bon Jovi in '93, met John, not at the show but at a mall, and he's a short little guy. Like I'm 6'1", so it's like, nice to meet you. But it doesn't matter though, because that is so cool. I mean, I think that bands realize that it costs a lot of money to get to these meet and greets. So these are obviously people that follow everything they do. And it doesn't pay to have a bad night, to be in a bad mood at one of these things.
No, exactly. And so, the experience was fast. From the moment I, walked up to Rick Savage and said, hello, it's so great to meet you. And, they took 2 pictures. Thankfully, mine turned out perfectly. It was probably 3 minutes. Like it was, but it was probably one of the most memorable 3 minutes that I'll ever have, because I got to meet my heroes. I got to have Joe Elliott put his arm around my shoulder and say, wow, let's make this a great shot, mate. And it just will forever live with me, right?
And here's the cool thing about that, because they've been so consistent. You saw them on the Adrenalize tour. It's the same 5 guys. There hasn't been a ton. The only lineup changes that have happened to Def Leppard have been kind of beyond control.
Of course. Yep.
Yeah. So
exactly.
So yeah, you're not seeing, I saw one of the 5 of them in '92. No, it's those 5 guys. Now you're meeting them. That's awesome.
Here's something that happened that I was really worried about. So this tour kicked off. They played a couple shows before this. Phil Collins' wife went into labor the week before this show, I want to say.
Yes, I think I remember reading that.
Steve Brown filled in for
Fritzster.
Phil.
Right.
On a couple shows.
Yeah.
And there was some uncertainty about whether Phil was going to be at the Toronto show. So I was like, oh no, I like Steve Brown, but at that point, I don't want to have, and I don't know how they were handling the VIP with, I don't know if Steve Brown was in. I don't think he would be in the photos.
I would think that it would probably just have been the 4.
Right. Which I was so worried that I wasn't going to have the full band and Phil wouldn't be there. So when I saw Phil, when I talked to them and I congratulated Phil on the birth of his son, Jackson, I said, I'm so happy you were able to make it here. Thank you. And he was like, oh, I really appreciate that. I'm so happy to be here. We're looking forward to putting on a great show for you guys. I'm glad to be back. And I was just like, this is amazing. This is amazing.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Steve also fill in for Vivian at one point?
He did. When Vivian was first diagnosed with Hodgkin's.
Yeah.
He played a bunch of dates. He's kind of their go-to guy.
But kudos to him, because I know obviously Steve Brown's a great guitar player, but it's not like, oh, we need you again. Now you got to learn another set of guitar parts.
Right. He's also a great singer. Steve Brown is a great singer, so he fits in well, right? He can take over Viv's vocals.
So it's definitely, it could be worse.
Could be worse, exactly.
Because I can't see how they could go on stage unless Joe played guitar more. But even then, I can't see them being able to do all those parts. It would not work. You'd need those 2 guys doing what they do.
Exactly. So that's my meet and greet experience. Again, so glad I did it, because now the prices are double. You don't get to have Joe Elliott put his arm around your shoulder. You're standing behind them, or with a certain amount of space.
It was with the Night Ranger guys. It was very much like there was a buffer. It doesn't look like it in the picture, and it was great, but it was very quick. No handshakes. It was just very in and out. But I'm not complaining. No, it's just the way these things are run now.
Exactly. So so that was a great show as well. Journey didn't open. They co-headlined in a sense, but it was a fantastic show. Like they opened with Rocket with the slow, which was amazing. Similar set list. They didn't play Excitable at my show. I think they added that in 2019, which I would have loved to have heard. It's not my favorite song from Hysteria.
No, me neither, but it was cool. I would have rather, as far as a non-single from Hysteria, I'm always going to say Gods of War, but
100%.
Yeah.
Which I don't think they've played live in quite some time, Gods of War.
Probably not since maybe the Viva Hysteria, or Run Riot. I love Run Riot too. Nobody ever talks about Run Riot.
It's a great album all around, right? So so that was the highlight of my Def Leppard concert going years. As I said, I've seen them at least a dozen times, and I will go back no matter what. I saw them again in 2022. So I bought tickets when did they announce the stadium tour? Just before COVID. So
Not
late
long.
2019. I bought tickets immediately. Now, when they announced the stadium tour, there were no Canadian dates.
Right.
So I bought tickets for Citi Field in New York City to go. And I was stoked to go to that. COVID hit. It was postponed, twice?
Yeah.
Then, when it all started up again, they announced they were going to expand it, and there were Canadian dates. So I bought tickets for the Canadian show as well. I ended up selling my American. I would have loved to have gone to Citi Field, but I ended up selling those and went to the show here in Toronto in August of 2022, which was killer. Bought the classic shirt.
Yeah.
Right. So I had to have this one. They had, Tim, I could have bought probably every shirt that they were selling, but these were $65.
Wow.
So I just went
choose something that you're going to really enjoy.
Right, because this is a reproduction of the Hysteria era tour, but with the stadium tour dates on the back for 2022.
Cool.
So I had to have this one. I also bought my daughter a shirt, so she's got a Pour Some Sugar on Me shirt separately for that. Again, they didn't have tour programs anymore. Otherwise, I would have bought one for sure. And then I've got I think it's in this one. Oh, maybe it's not. Might be hanging on the wall. Yeah, it is hanging on the wall. So I do have my ticket stub for this is interesting. I have my ticket stub for Citi Field because I ordered a physical ticket.
Yes. Okay.
Because I wanted it.
I got you. Yeah.
But guess what? They didn't do physical tickets for the 2022 stadium tour here in Toronto. So FYI, there's a fantastic website where you can actually get ticket stubs made that look like the originals. I think it's called Stub Forge. So I'm going to do that for that show just so I have it because you can't get these anymore, right?
Yeah.
So unfortunately, so that's what I've got from the stadium tour. I'll show you quickly too. I've been a member of the Rock Brigade for multiple years because that's where you could go on and get advanced, it's the fan club, you get advanced stuff. I saw you had a shirt too. So I'm curious. I've got a bunch of Rock Brigade stuff.
That shirt, my good friend Matt Phillips got that for me because he was the one that procured the tickets for the 2019 show. So I'm not a member myself, although I have purchased directly from the website. I think the first thing I bought directly from the website was when the self-titled album came out. I bought the Classic Rock Magazine edition of that.
Yeah, so these are all you get a bit of swag when you join it and you get early access. So over the years, this one was
a cool picture.
Yeah, that was the most, I think that was the most recent one they did. It takes about freaking 5 months to get these from England, but they do arrive. And
that's cool too. Yeah, like I said, there's t-shirts designs are getting better. They were never bad, but they're getting better.
Yeah, this is the 2016.
I like that.
Official member, right? From the self-titled album, which was a fantastic tour because they played 3 songs from that album, which I love.
Yeah, I'm way into that album. I remember being so disappointed when I started to see that in the $5 bins at Walmart because it's so good.
It's such a good album.
Yeah,
they send you a little bit of cool swag. This is like a coaster.
Yeah.
Official member, and they would always send these as well. So pins.
Okay, yeah.
Little pins. There's the.
Oh, that's cool. I like that one a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I've got actually the other 2 are in here, so you can see them. This one I really like, right?
Yes.
The Union Jack.
Like the colors and everything.
And then there's that one. The one that.
Yeah. Something that just occurred to me, Chris, maybe one of the reasons bands don't do tour books anymore is how much would it cost? How much would a tour book cost for them to lug these big physical books around? They'd probably be $100. They wouldn't be, maybe it's just cost prohibitive.
I think it must be. And to your point, there's a lot of weight and lugging around boxes and boxes of books, right?
And they'd have to sell so many of them to make it pay. So
exactly. So that is, I think, everything that I've got from my Def Leppard concert going years.
That's all.
That's all. You know what? As I said, I wish I would have who, back when we were 20 years old and going to these shows and buying the merch, like I said before, it wasn't not in our mindset to be like, oh, I got to keep these.
Yeah. You
collect
wanted
them.
you wanted to wear it and show people. Yeah, I was there.
Well, the big thing for me was going to these shows back in the day and buying the shirt and wearing it the next day, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you had to, right? It was a rule. It was like an unwritten rule somewhere. There's only one more thing I want to mention, and it's kind of an honorable mention, but earlier this year, I met really, really great bunch of guys from Montreal that are in a Def Leppard tribute group called Hysteria MTL. And they came and played Fredericton about an hour away from me. And Pat, their lead guitarist, gave me this shirt here, which is basically demonstrating their, the what does it say on here? Yeah, MTL, a tribute to Def Leppard. So yeah,
that's a great shirt.
Yeah, it's really cool. And
what's on the sleeve there? Is there something on the sleeve?
I think it says Miss Bean Music. This might be the company that makes the shirts. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But they're actually coming this way next spring, because Pat sent me a message not too long ago. So I'm gonna catch up with those guys again. They do a great job, and they do a really if anybody's interested to watch the episode that I did, but they dig really deep. I mean, they do Rock Brigade, they do Let It Go, they do Hit and Run. It's it's good. It's good stuff. So but yeah, that's that's really fun. Like that, just seeing all this tour stuff, it makes me remember why we love going to these concerts, and really the core of this collecting thing that we do. It's all about the music. And when you have those last few, it doesn't matter how many times I've seen a show, when it goes to black and you can see the footsteps coming up on a stage, that never gets old for me.
Nope.
So yeah, this was a lot of fun. So Chris, thank you very much for doing this. Don't forget, follow Chris on all of the media. I believe he's My Rock and Roll Heaven on all across the board.
Yep, across the board.
And yeah, Chris, it's always a pleasure having you here. And I think it's safe to say that we are going to do some specific Def Leppard themed shows, because you've got a mighty collection, and it deserves to be seen by as many people as possible. So Chris, thank you very much for guesting.
There will be a next time, Tim.
There will be a next time. Yeah. I want to thank everybody for watching this edition of Tim's Vinyl Confessions, and we'll see you later.